How strong is your inner dialogue, that compass that points you, that tells you what's right or what's wrong? The truths that you know are the right truths for yourself. When did you notice that it got to the point where it is today, where you know what is right more for you? You trust that what yourself is telling you more for you than the voices outside, the voices of people you trust. I had that moment 2 days ago at the time of filming this, and I've kind of just been processing it the last few days. I had, after going on a little bit of hiatus with my therapist for about 4 months or so, I finally booked another appointment, and it didn't go how I expected. For me, in these last 5 months, I have changed quite a bit. I feel like a completely different person. I've gone through my Saturn return, which that in of itself can be crazy. And I've also just done a lot of work. I've done a lot of tapping. I've been working very, very hard to move through things and work through things and share the things that I'm doing, to be out here making videos and talking to the people. Are there still issues in my life? Yes. Do I still need to unpack from moving a few months ago? Like, I've started. We're chipping away at it. But yeah, I do get that there are all these things. But when I was having this conversation with my therapist, who I loved, and don't get me wrong, she was very, very helpful, over the past year and a half where I did need that kind of advice. But her advice to me was to stop doing, pause, even just for a moment, the making the videos, the putting myself out there, the doing these things, to focus on the things within my home that are stressing me out. And, at points in my life, that would have been the advice I needed. But this week, when that happened, feeling like a completely different person, that voice was wrong. And I knew in that moment, this was, last 10 minutes of therapy, but I knew in that moment that that was not the answer for me. That if I stopped the recording, I would be purposely pulling myself out of flow. I'd be purposely pulling myself into a place where my main focuses are the things I'm struggling on, versus my main focuses being on working on myself and letting the pieces fall around me. That's how I consider what I consider my flow. It's when I'm doing those things that make me feel good, that make me feel positive. The creating, whether it's art or videos, the moving, whether it's dancing or swimming, and the being still, the taking the time to listen to my own voice, to listen to my own compass. And that's really what I've done a lot of these last 2 days. I've chipped away, I unpacked for an hour today, but what's more important is that I'm here and making these videos and showing up for myself in an authentic way. You know, I definitely did need my therapist, and she was amazing for the past version of myself. And I'll probably find another therapist again in the next few months. I'm not saying don't do therapy, but I am saying that you should trust your gut. If the advice you're being given, whether it's from a therapist, a teacher, a friend, a loved one, a parent, you know, that well intentioned advice is still just that. It's advice. At the end of the day, they see you through the filter of the lens of their experiences, their ideas, the way that they see the world, and the stories that come along with that. And if you're seeking advice from someone who has no experience or doesn't really understand the thing you're seeking advice on, of course it's going to be a little skewed. Of course it's going to be filtered through their lens of, oh, you can't make $1 million in a year because that's not possible. That's not how reality works. But if you want it to be, it can. Remember, you're the one who manifests, you're the one who creates. So for me, this was just, it's been a lot of processing and just taking the time to be proud of myself for recognizing that the advice that this person has helped me so much. But in that moment, the advice that she has to give can't help me past this point where I am now. Like, it's time to listen to my inner guidance above the voice of others. And it's different. I didn't know I'd reached this point, and I'm happy that I'm here. But it just, I guess, kind of leaves me in this place where I wonder what's next. I wonder, do I start looking for a therapist now, or do I trust that when the time is right, the opportunity will come up for me? So today, because I like giving advices, strategies to work through the things that I'm working through. But today, I want you to pay special attention to that intuition, that inner voice. And, this is an activity, wasp flying around. You'll be safe in this, protected in this, but rambly here. But I want you to focus on that inner voice today. I want you to find some piece of advice that you're given, whether it's scrolling through a reel and you see that piece of advice that for a moment you think, oh yeah, that makes sense for a past version of me. Or, maybe it's an article on tips and strategies to do something. Whatever advice, wherever you're getting it from, wherever you're hearing it from, I want you to filter it through the lens of your higher self. Filter it through the lens of, is this right for me? Does this align with who I am, where I'm going, what my voice has to say, what my heart and soul have to say? Because I think you might be surprised just how much things don't align when you listen to yourself over what other people say, as in the things the other people say aren't aligning. Because honestly, the only person who truly knows you, who knows you the best, is yourself. You have all of your experiences, you know all of your stories, you know all of your histories, and whether some of those things are locked in your subconscious or up at the forefront, whether they are active things you're working through or things that are a little more subliminal, back of the brain, that slow you down on certain pathways. Whatever it is, like, you know yourself best. And this advice isn't for every moment and every time. If you are in the middle of those really deep, hard struggles, maybe those outside voices are helpful, but it's about building that trust with yourself, building that communication between yourself and your higher self, your inner knowing. And once you learn to listen, there will come a point, like I had 2 days ago, where you realize that your inner voice is stronger than the ones around you, that things you have to say, the feelings you have, the opinions you have, those wants and urges, they matter more than anything else somebody is trying to tell you should want or you should have. And it can be radical change, radical transformation when you have the courage to start listening to that versus listening to the other people. And the thing is, most people won't understand. But again, that doesn't matter. How you feel matters. How you see yourself. How you walk through the world. How your energy coalesces around you. Do you want to radiate? Were you told that showing up for yourself in a certain way was bad, even though deep down it feels right? Listen to that voice, because they are wise beyond even what I can say. I'm grateful you are here. You are a beautiful soul, and I appreciate you so much. As you move through today, just trust in your knowing, trust in your intuition. And if you want to share an experience or a story of where you listen to yourself over what might have been sound advice, a moment in your time, in your history, where you truly trusted yourself, even if the rest of the world didn't understand. Because here's the thing, The rest of the world won't understand until it's done, until you make it. I was watching a reel earlier today, and it was talking about how, old-fashioned alchemists were crazy because they wanted to turn lead into gold. And, this was a thing that wasn't helpful or wasn't useful until they actually did it. And, it might not be worth it. It might cost more to turn lead into gold than the gold itself is worth, the process. But it doesn't mean that process wasn't possible. It doesn't mean there isn't still gold and energy and beautiful things to be found in that process, in that procedure, in the making, in the transformation. And people don't understand the transformation unless they're going through it. They will tell you things, they will give advice, they will see you through the lens that they have seen you through before until they have a reason to change that lens. And they might not always get that reason. But when you are stepping into your authentic self, when you are listening to your higher self, your true voice, it matters less and less. It can still matter at times. No, I won't lie. Knowing and hearing what people say or people think, or presuming what they say and think, that worry can always be there. But it doesn't have to be. And when you're trusting in yourself, you know that you are the authority in you, and that they can think whatever they want, but you are still the authority in you. Somebody can say the sky is green, but if you're looking up and you know that that sky is blue for you, they can say it's green all they want, but it doesn't change the fact that for you, the sky is still blue. You are still seeing a blue sky. People can call you whatever they'd like to call you for the changes you're making, but at the end of the day, you know yourself. So trust in that knowing, trust in that knowledge. Go forth today and find a way to share even just a little bit more of your true self, of your authentic self, of the self that makes you happy. It's how we change the world.